Today I'll be talking about hypertension. So before we understand what hypertension is, you need to understand what blood pressure is. And blood pressure is basically when your heart, it pumps blood through the arteries. And basically when it pumps blood, it starts to build a lot of pressure in these areas. And that is what blood pressure is. So hypertension is basically when you have high blood pressure, so persistently elevated blood levels. And it's basically when your blood vessels they decrease in size, which is known as vasoconstriction, or even when the arterial walls become bigger. So that's what hypertrophy means. And most of the time you don't know that you have hypertension, right? It's asymptomatic, and some of the risk factors might be because you get it through your family, through genetics, maybe if you drink a lot of alcohol, if you're smoking a lot, if you're under a lot of stress. So these are all risk factors. And treatment will obviously be changing your lifestyle. So try and preventing, maybe smoking or alcohol or stress, all these things. And also you can change your diet and also take some medication if it comes to very severe stages. So your normal blood pressure is 120/80, and 120 is your systolic. And systolic basically means it's basically measuring the blood pressure within the arteries when your heart is beating, and then diastolic is when your heart is at rest. So risks and prevention. So when you have hypertension, there's a lot of diseases that you can get, and I've listed it right there. So you'll have a lot of maybe heart failure. You're more prone to heart attacks or a lot of chest pain. You can get stroke. You can get things like kidney failures, and even irregular heartbeats. So a lot of things to do with your heart. And some stuff that you can do to prevent it, like I said before, treatment-wise, is to change your diet. So if we're looking at nutrition-wise, maybe eat things that have, reduced salt intake. So kind of stay off of your fast foods, or your McDonald's, your KFCs, all those sort of things. Try to be a bit more active. Maybe go to the gym. Maybe go on a run. Things that you guys like to do, and obviously, reduce tobacco use, so smoking, things like that, and reducing your alcohol consumption, maybe taking it once a week sort of thing, and even limiting trans fats, which is basically your frozen food and things like that. Okay, so now into some facts. So around about 1.28 billion adults, around about the age of 30 to 79 years old, have hypertension. So that's about 2/3 of that number are from lower class, middle class, and obviously because they go through a lot more stress and a lot more things, that's why they tend to have hypertension a lot more. And majority of these adults, around about 46% of them, don't actually realize that they have hypertension. So if they don't realize that they have hypertension, then they're not diagnosed and they're not treated. So there's a lot of deaths that you can get from that too. So economic importance. So economy is your money, right? So high blood pressure costs about 131 billion to around about $2 billion a year. So this cost basically includes your medicine, the treatment, how they measure it, basically by this blood pressure machine that you might have seen before. It's called a sphygmomanometer. And you also need medication to treat these things if you're not going to change your diet and your lifestyle, and also from premature deaths. And then social importance. So the African region has more higher prevalence to hypertension than compared to the lowest prevalence country in Americas. So the number of adults with hypertension basically has drastically increased in the number of years, right? From 594 million back in 1975 to round about now 1.13 billion people, which is stats taken back in 2015. So obviously, again, as I mentioned before, majority of this number is from lower and middle class income countries. Okay, and then I've got a case study, and the case study is on Scotland. So 1/3 of the adults in Scotland have high blood pressure, and a quarter of those people, they don't realize that they have blood pressure. And they also have, one quarter of those people have blood pressure, but they control it through treatment. So like taking medications and things like that. And one thing that the Scottish government has basically done is kind of release 2 plans. So the first plan is focused mainly on your diet, and it's called Scotland's Diet and Healthy Weight Delivery Plan. So that is just promoting good food, your healthy food, your fruits, vegetables, things like that. And then the second thing that Scotland has done is basically release this thing called a More Active Scotland. So that is doing things more for your physical activities. So doing things like marathons or fundraisers to promote all of that, to make you physically more active. And that is a bit about hypertension. So thank you guys for listening.